All right. What's up, YouTube? This, I don't understand. I don't know what this stream is. This is because I wanted to go live today. Um, we might switch over to some World of Warcraft in a little bit. But right now, I'm doing some laptop research. Make sure you say hi if you're in chat. I'm going to have to move this over here because I can't see my fingers. And I'm not a good typer. Oh, yeah, look at that. All right. That's cool. Ah. Ooh. Nice. That's kind of fun, isn't it? Um, Sweet. All right. So what I'm looking for is I want to get a laptop for a reasonable price with the best processor I can get, which I think is a Core i9 12700. I think it's a Core i9 12700H, I believe, is the fastest I can reasonably buy. I could buy the 12900H, but I believe that that card in itself is like $1,100. I think that processor by itself breaks my budget. So let me see. Laptop, Core i9. $12,700H. All right. And I want it to be in. Ooh. I want it to be in 2K. I want it to be 1400 hertz. Or I mean 1400 display. Lots of Lenovo's. I really missed my old brands, man. I really wish I could buy a Toshiba, and they just don't exist anymore. I don't. So the brands that survived, aside from Dell, I actually kind of like Dell. The brands that survived, I don't really care for. Oh wait, the 12700's an i7. i7, okay. It's not an i9. The i9 is the one that I can't afford. And honestly, I don't need an i9. I need the i7's dope though. That's 15.6 full HD at 144 hertz. There's the I could get an older i9 instead of getting the i7 12700. I could go for a year or two beforehand. It'd be a slightly slower processor, but I could get an i9 11. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it says don't buy it.
design and digital art and photography. However, things have changed with the latest release of the i7-1260p from Intel in the Lenovo Yoga 9i Gen 7.
That's weird.
Book S14X, and this is the i7-12700H without a dedicated GPU.
I don't know what that was,
Now,
but
the reason
now you
that
can hear
I'm
it.
making this video is because I want to make sure you guys choose the right laptops. Okay, if you have an i7-12700H, in my opinion, you should be getting a dedicated GPU with it, because the amount of power draw you're going to have out of a H series processor will dramatically kill your battery life. However, in the past, it would have been understandable to get good performance. However, now that we're at a place where Intel has produced the i7-1260p, which is both energy efficient and powerful without a dedicated GPU, it makes more sense to avoid the H series processor that does not include a dedicated GPU because of inefficiencies, to go for the i7-1260p,
Okay.
which is more efficient and powerful, which we'll see in the benchmarks here in just a minute, for anything like 4K video editing, graphic design, digital art.
Look at that.
Photography.
This is
Now,
why
if
I'm
you're
on
somebody who
YouTube, so I want the
wants to get into
1260p.
modeling, 6K video editing, or just very intense 4K video editing, then you should absolutely go for an H series processor.
I'm telling you
with
this,
a
I'm not
dedicated GPU.
going to be doing
Getting an
intense
H
4K
series,
editing
in this day and age, you should have a dedicated
on this
GPU,
laptop.
so they both work in tandem and get a lot of great performance. I'm going to include some laptops in the benchmark charts that have both the H series processor and the dedicated GPU, so you can see how much of a performance bump the laptop gets when it's paired together. But when it's not paired with a dedicated GPU, you might as well stick with the 1260p. Okay.
And I don't
Before
really want to buy a
walk in circles,
GPU.
let's jump into the benchmarks.
So
Now, as we look at the simulated benchmarks in Geekbench, both single-core and multi-core, it looks as if the VivoBook S14X with the i7-12700H is going to be a good performer. In single-core, it's getting above the 1260ps, but as we move into multi-core, because of all the heat that's
They
being
love
generated
this
from the
Omen,
CPU,
man.
they have to do what's called thermal throttling. So they have to throttle
Let
the
me-
CPU
I wanna
in
look
order
at
to make sure
that.
it doesn't get too hot.
hold
from
on.
the CPU.
Oh,
They
it's a
have to
chart. You guys can't see it. I'm sorry about that. I know that that's the crux of this. I could probably cut it in. I don't want to get any copyright issues. Okay. So this is saying that Omen, which is a pretty expensive laptop. I looked it up. But it's also a gaming laptop. It's all shiny and crap. Is higher. Okay. It's saying it's the best. Yo, but right below it, the Lenovo Yoga 9i Gen 7, which might be this little tiny little crap of a machine. It's not too far off. I need to look at this Asus Zephyrus G14 too. So let me look at it. Oh, I hate Asus. I really don't want to buy an Asus. That's the whole reason I'm doing this. I'll be okay with HP, and I'd be okay with Lenovo. I'd obviously be okay with Samsung. But I really don't want an Asus. They have let me down.
do what's called thermal throttling. So they have to throttle the CPU in order to make sure it doesn't get too hot, and then they can keep the fan noise down. The problem with that is it decreases the performance that we would see if this CPU was stuck in more of a gaming PC with more room to vent, with a GPU to complement that workload, right? And so because this is such a thin and light laptop, they have to use thermal throttling in order to keep it cool, rather than having a thicker chassis in order to fit more heat pipes and more fans into to cool the CPU. So we're seeing a decrease in performance. Now, as we move into Cinebench R23, you can see that it looks as if the processor will still perform well. So for running a lot of simulated benchmarks, the clear choice looks as if it would be the i7 H series processor in the S14X from Asus. However, as we get into real-world benchmarks
Oh, wait a minute.
from Asus,
That I was
however,
spaced
as
out there for a second, but he
I
just
said
showed the
perform well. So for
other
right
one
now,
I was
see
looking
it.
at, the Vivio book, which is the Asus, has the best single core results. Look at this, man. It's pretty consistent across the board. When you're googling on the phone, it feels like this cluster truck that you're looking at. You get these. It's just not organized properly. Somebody needs to fix that. Some techie needs to fix that, because it's just when you're shopping on Google, it's just horrendously ugly. But I've found, but all these, I'm recognizing every single one of these current laptop brands, which means that these must be, this is it. Unless you build your own inside your own box, these are the cases that are mainstream right now, because these are the cases that can handle all the new tech. So in the laptop world, and this is how my brain's wrapping around it, and I might be wrong. Like, I might have a different way of thinking about these things later, but right now my brain is wrapping around this in a way that says, in the laptop world, we just name our cases, and the cases determine what the internals can probably be, because laptops are kind of built around you got to fit everything into the little case, so laptops don't always fit everything. So they've named each chassis a lot like cars. So laptops are like cars. You can only put so many. I mean, you can modify it heavy, but then it's custom. But if you just want to plug and play, there's only so many options you can put on the vehicle. But just like vehicles, if you really wanted to, obviously you could cut holes in the thing and put on parts that aren't supposed to go there. But then you end up destroying the case. Anyway, this is saying that Asus Vivio book's got good reviews, and well, I mean that's
benchmarks, the clear
single
choice
core
looks
results.
as if it would be the i7 H series processor in the S14X from Asus. However, as we get into real-world benchmarks, which is where this whole conversation comes full circle,
Here's the real world.
It's not even a competition. You see at the bottom of the charts, the VivoBook S14X
See?
with that H series processor.
He?
You see beating out
Photoshop. In actual application, the Asus Vivio book is shit. And this is why I didn't want to buy Asus. Because I was sold on that motherfucker last night. I wanted to buy this laptop. I really did. I wanted to buy this laptop. And I'm like, I don't trust Asus. And now I'm looking at the reviews, and lo and behold, oh yeah, it's got really, really, really good specific stats that they can use to market to me. But then in practical application, the thing fucking sucks.
out by a couple hundred points is the Galaxy Book. Now, not only are you going to get better results as far as performance is concerned, but these laptops,
However, that
will
Omen
also
is still
give you
performing.
substantially better battery life. For your productivity battery life, that's, doing web browsing, jumping on Zoom calls, writing papers, you're going to see about 11 to 13 hours of battery life out of the 1260Ps. Whereas out of the H series processor, you're only going to see maybe 8 hours of battery life. Now, as you jump into Photoshop, you're going to see about 5 to 7 hours of battery life out of the 1260p processors, whereas the H series processor, you're going to see about 3 to 4 hours of battery life. So it all looks good on paper, but then as soon as you start putting these laptops in real-world tests, it dramatically decreases based on the fact that this processor is not matched with a dedicated GPU or a thicker chassis to properly cool it. Now looking at the Premiere Pro,
I knew it.
4K
Yeah,
export
Asus just
times,
can't
you can
figure its
see
shit
that
out.
The i7 12700H, because of the thermal throttling, is exporting at a much slower time than the i7 1260p.
Oh my
CPUs.
god,
When
fuck
we're looking
Asus.
at 4K
I'm never
playback,
buying an Asus.
The new 1260p processors do very well. They have very low drop frames at fourth quality, half quality, and even full quality. We see at fourth quality and half quality, the H series processor does well. But as soon as we go up to full quality, it immediately has about 9,000 drop frames in the 4K project out of 16,177. So that means that the playback is going to be better on these mobile processors than it will be on this H series processor because it is throttling the CPU. It's not allowing it to have that full performance of the CPU. So if this was a thicker chassis complemented with a dedicated GPU, we would see incredible.
It's a desktop GPU. It should be.
However, because of the circumstance it's in, it just doesn't.
I would have to mod it. I could make that Asus
If you have
scream,
questions or comments, definitely drop
but
those
I'd have
below.
to mod it.
Links are free to make a purchase of any of these models if it's helped you with the buying decision. Likes that this video has brought you some value, and here's some other videos to help you along the way of picking the right laptop for your needs.
All right. How much is that stupid Omen? HP Omen. Hey, that's not bad. That's actually in the same realm too. I think what I'm losing... Shit, that's not bad. It does come with dedicated GPU, like that guy said. Let's see. That's pretty good. I just wish it... I know it's so dumb, but I don't want it to say gaming computer, because it's not. I want to... Frankly, I need a workstation, but I don't want a workstation, like, because those start coming... Those, just classifying it as a workstation makes it, like, super fucking expensive. What I want is a gaming PC, but... without... I just want it. I think I just want a gaming PC. Probably. It's not that I want to run games on it, it's just that that's where the power is. All right, let's see if we can find a... Let's find a review on YouTube for this Omen. Who do I want to watch by? There's a lot of reviews on this. Here's the i7 with the 3060 budget gaming laptop.
desktop to a laptop. But with GPUs being extremely difficult to get your hands on without paying over MSRP price for a scalper to sell you one on eBay or something, I had no choice but to buy a laptop. And the laptop I personally went ahead and purchased, it's the Omen 16. And looking back at it, I don't have any regrets. Now there's a lot of pros going with the laptop over a desktop, one of which is you don't have to worry about a blackout, so you don't have to buy a UPS or anything like that. You don't have to deal with external exposed wire.
There's a specific reason that I'm buying a laptop, by the way. It's because I have to go back and forth to school, and I have schoolwork to do an hour away from my house, and I can't. And 2 of my classes are online. I cannot be dicking around with, I got to rush back so I can go to my classes on my desktop. That's not going to work. I actually need a laptop to function proper, and there's no way I would get one of those typical Macs. Not a chance. Never, ever gonna happen.
Wires aside from the power adapter, and modern day laptops are extremely powerful. As is reasonably priced, Omen 16 is a nice bang for your buck, especially if you're using this for content creating, gaming, and also daily use. As its external design isn't big and bulky like an Alienware or something, so it makes traveling on the go extremely convenient. Even though this is a large 16.1 inch display, it's not bad in terms of portability. And this is a machine that I personally went ahead and purchased. And its specs are also really competitive for its price tag, as it is a 1080p display that can go up to 144 Hz. There's a 4K model available. I didn't get it due to the fact that I basically bought this computer for this channel to test out future hardware like an external monitor, some VR software or VR gaming, and etc. So upon all of the research I've done, this is the one I personally picked, as it's the perfect hybrid to handle everything, including casual AAA title gaming. It does have a matte anti-glare display, which does a fantastic job viewing the screen at all angles, as the display itself can go up to about 300 nits, and it has all the important I/O ports that anybody will ever need, as you do have access to a USB-A port if needed, but not only that, you do have Thunderbolt 4 with USB 4 Type-C. You have a full HDMI port, Ethernet port, a headphone jack, display port, and most importantly, you have an SD card reader. Then on the other side, you have additional USB ports right here. It does have built-in Bluetooth 5 and has support for Wi-Fi 6. Now this laptop I actually went ahead and purchased off Best Buy. And the specs that they sell on their retail stores, this one actually has a 512GB M.2 SSD, so it's super quick, with 16 gigs of DDR4 memory. Now this is the Intel version, so it does have the 11th generation i7 8-core processor with a dedicated graphics RTX 3060. So it's right there in the middle. Now some of the key elements that this laptop has in particular, the keyboard itself, it is super clicky and nice to click on and such. Perfect for daily use for typing on documents, paragraphs and such. But
it says right there in the middle, and I'm considering that high end actually.
RGB keyboard. So thanks to
I guess
the
high
HP
end would
Innovative
be
software, this is all fully
expensive.
customizable. And because of that, this is the reason why I purchased this one, because I see this HP laptop being the best bang for your buck in terms of being the ultimate hybrid computer for anybody who doesn't want to spend ridiculous amount on a gaming laptop, but at the same time have all the modern day performance to enjoy any modern day games like Forza, Halo, because this does have access to Microsoft Game Pass. So my needs for this laptop is primarily to test hardware like VR games, VR software, exclusive software that's only on the Windows side, not on the Mac, as well as the ability to also Geekbench like 4K monitors and etc. And every once in a while I will casually game on this computer on the go. And I managed to get this computer for just $1,100 at Best Buy, as it was an open box. But from my understanding, this computer does go on sale once in a while at Best Buy. So keep your eyes on it, because it can go on sale for around $1,200, which that is a solid deal. Now I did went with the open box because at that time, again, that sale wasn't going on. And I thoroughly inspected, making sure it wasn't damaged or anything like that. And indeed, it was brand new, so I had to pull the trigger, which was why I bought the open box version instead. But normally this laptop sells at Best Buy for around $1,500. But so far, after using this laptop for several hours, I still haven't run into any issues, any concerns, even though this was an open box.
Okay, he's like saying $1,500. This thing's saying $999.9. That's before tax and shipping, though, I guess. Okay, I also This isn't, yeah, this isn't the one that he had though. So let's configure it. Ugh. I really don't want to spend this money, man. This hurts. Also, I feel like I should call, but I've done a lot of research. Oh, but I need to call, see if they'll give me my military discount. So here's how we configure it. All right. Windows 11 Home. What's the difference between a 3050 and a 3050 Ti? 3050 versus, yeah, I'll just type that into YouTube. Let's see, 3050 versus 3050 Ti.
NVIDIA RTX 3050 and 3050 Ti gaming laptops are here, but what are the actual differences in games, and is it worth paying more money for the Ti? I've compared both in 15 different games at all setting levels, as well as thermals, battery life, content creator workloads, and more to show you the differences. These are the differences in specs between these two GPUs. Both have 4 gigs of GDDR6 memory with the same speed, but the Ti has 25% more CUDA cores and 25% more RT cores. Both have the same power limit range of 35 to 80 watts, so performance will vary significantly.
Can
based
hype
on
all
this,
the way up
but
to
even with the same
3070.
power limit, the Ti doesn't clock as high as the non-Ti, presumably because the Ti has more CUDA cores to power. I'm using the Core 17 from XMG to do all of this testing fairly. I've got the exact same Tongfeng chassis with the same specs, including CPU and memory, same cooling design, same battery, same everything. The only difference is that one has the 3050 while the other has the 3050 Ti. Both laptops are able to run the GPU up to 80 watts plus 15 watts with dynamic boost, so 95 watts best case on the GPU, but it will depend on the workload. Unfortunately, neither laptop lets us disable Optimus. However, that feature usually costs more money, and given the 3050 is probably going to be found in cheaper laptops, that kind of makes sense. That said, this should still be a fair comparison, as both of these laptops force Optimus. Otherwise, both laptops were tested with the same version of Windows and same NVIDIA drivers. So let's start out by comparing 15 different games, followed by things like thermals afterwards. If you get sick of me talking about games, then just use those timestamps below. Cyberpunk 2077 was tested with the exact same run through the game on both laptops. I've got the 3050 results shown by the red bars and the 3050 Ti results shown by the purple bars, along with all setting presets the game offers.
All right, the
with
Ti
lowest down the bottom
is
and highest up the top. This game
purple.
actually saw the biggest difference out of all 15 titles tested.
Ray
with the
tracing,
Ti
slightly
reaching
faster.
18% higher average FPS at ultra settings. Although both can run ray tracing, even with DLSS enabled, the results aren't too impressive in this game. But as you'll see soon, the Ti can offer bigger gains in ray tracing. It's not all big gains for the Ti though. Take Assassin's Creed Valhalla for instance. This game gets limited
I'm not even gonna
partially
play
by the
these
4 gig
games.
VRAM, and as a result, ultra high and very high settings are bottlenecked in scoring the same unplayable results with either GPU. Even in the best case at low settings, the Ti is only around 5% faster than the non-Ti. Let's look at Watch Dogs Legion next, because it's a more average result compared to the previous two extremes. At max settings, the Ti was around 9% faster than the non-Ti, though this only equates to a less than 3 FPS difference. Not really something you're likely to notice.
This is
But the
interesting.
frame
This is
rate
just like
difference
reading the
was more
consumer
than double
review,
this
but
with lower
getting it
setting
in
levels.
YouTube
Control
form.
was tested with and without ray tracing. Let's start with ray tracing.
I can actually get this
results.
information
The Ti
really,
was
really
just
fast.
7% higher in average FPS at max settings, though this is
But this
just
breaks
3
it down.
FPS.
I like it.
Either GPU was able to run the game at above 60 FPS with medium settings. Performance drops back significantly with ray tracing enabled. However, the Ti was now 38% higher in average FPS at max settings. Quite a big difference. So it seems like for ray tracing, the Ti has quite quite an advantage. But that said, these results aren't really playable, so it hardly matters. This is where DLSS comes in. It's required if you want to use ray tracing on either the 3050 or 3050 Ti in this game. The Ti still had a massive 22% higher average FPS at max settings here. Even the 1% lows from the Ti were ahead of the averages from the non-Ti. Red Dead Redemption 2 illustrated another example of where the 4
Look
gigs
at that,
of
if I
VRAM
play
is
on
enough,
low.
neither laptop GPU is able to run ultra settings because there's not enough. That said, high settings was about 7% faster with the Ti, which was only just below that 60 FPS sweet spot. The differences in Microsoft Flight Simulator were much higher than expected, as I generally consider this test to depend more on the processor. However, at max settings, the Ti was 15% ahead. Though again, like previously, this is just a 3 to 4
It'll let you
FPS
run the newer
difference,
games.
so nothing major when looking at the actual results compared to percentage values. Death Stranding
You're not
only
gonna
had
be
minor
running them at the
differences
best
for the
rate.
1% lows, while average FPS was 6% higher at max settings with the Ti, or about 5 FPS or so. Call of Duty Warzone, on the other hand, had one of the smallest differences at max settings. The Ti was just 5% faster in terms of average FPS. There was a larger 13% boost at minimum settings, but this game is harder to accurately compare as the results may be skewed by the actions of other players. The fun of testing Battle Royale style games, I guess. Fortnite, on the other hand, was tested using the same replay on both laptops, so directly comparable. The Ti was just 6% ahead of the non-Ti at max settings in this one, but considering the frame rates are so close together and still above 100 FPS from either GPU, I doubt this is a difference you'd be likely to notice when playing. Plus, you could always enable DLSS for a boost. Metro Exodus had a well above average 16% boost to average FPS at
All
ultra
it does,
settings,
it just
but
gives
be
you a
really
little bit of a
careful with
boost.
these vanity numbers. Perhaps these frame rates aren't even what you'd want to play at, and that's exactly why I spent the extra time showing the lower settings too. Unlike the big differences we saw in Control with ray tracing, the ray tracing preset didn't see big differences with the Ti. The Witcher 3 also saw above average gains for the Ti.
I can't believe you
reaching
can play these.
12% higher average FPS at max settings here.
I really
Slightly
have
over
a
10
skewed
FPS
image
difference
of what's
or so.
like
So
good. Like
again,
in my
perhaps
head,
not something you'd
this
really
laptop
notice in
wouldn't
a
even be able to play
side-by-side
these games.
comparison, but at least it's more of a change compared to some of the other games. Shadow of the Tomb Raider was reaching 9% higher average FPS with the highest setting preset, but the 3050 non-Ti was still easily surpassing 60 FPS in this test at max settings. Perhaps as it's an older title and we're dealing with modern hardware. While we're looking at older games, Battlefield 5 was reaching 7% higher average FPS with the Ti at max settings. But again, like a lot of others, this is just a 3 to 4 FPS difference, though the gap widens at lower setting presets. Medium settings, for example, was 10% faster on the Ti. Granted, 1%
It'll
lower
play
is not really
Battlefield
different.
5. I
figured
love
I'd throw in a
Battlefield
racing
5.
game because some people have been asking for that. F1 2020 was similar with an 8% boost to average FPS with the highest setting preset, though either GPU is still easily surpassing 100 FPS in this test even maxed out. Rainbow Six Siege was similar again, with a 7% boost to average FPS at max settings on the Ti, but again with such high frame rates it's not like you're going to struggle playing with the cheaper non-Ti. On average, over all 15 games tested at 1080p with the highest setting preset, the RTX 3050 Ti was almost 9% faster than the RTX 3050. As we can clearly see, results could vary significantly based on the particular game. Worst case, there was no change in Assassin's Creed Valhalla due to a VRAM bottleneck, while others like Cyberpunk in the best case had 18% gains. Though in many cases, once we actually consider the differences in FPS, it's often not much. Here's what the differences look like if we instead use the minimum setting preset rather than maximum. Generally, lower settings are less GPU bound, so the average difference is a little lower, but still close to an 8% boost on average with the Ti. Given many of the resource-heavy games weren't necessarily running at playable levels at max settings, these results could be more practical. Now let's check out thermals and battery life. The interior of both laptops is the same 62 Wh battery, and the cooling solution is the same, and both have the same i7-11800H CPU with same power limits. Only the GPU is different. For these upcoming tests, I've capped both laptops to 80 watts on the GPU, so there's no dynamic boost in use here, which was the case previously. These are the clock speeds that were reported by Hardware Info by running the Heaven GPU benchmark at max settings at 1440p for 30 minutes. As per the specs shown at the start, the 3050 is able to clock higher. The temperature results were interesting. Both laptops were tested at the same time in the same workload, and the 3050 was slightly warmer. Now, it's only a small difference, but I was still going into this expecting the higher tier Ti GPU to run warmer. It might be because the 3050 clocks higher, or maybe its fewer CUDA cores are in a smaller hotspot, but that's just speculation. Either way, the difference is small, and I wouldn't pick one or the other based on this. I've compared battery life in gaming, and the Ti was actually lasting a few minutes longer, though it's an extremely small amount, and realistically, I'd say within margin of error. Again, I'd consider consider them the same here. I've also tested some content creator workloads to see if there's any difference compared to the games just covered. Adobe Premiere was tested with the Puget Systems benchmark, and no real difference here. The GPU hardly seems to matter. The score is more based on the processor, and both laptops have the same one. I'd expect DaVinci Resolve to show a larger difference on the TI, but unfortunately the Puget test kept failing due to the 4GB VRAM limit. Blender was tested with the Open Data benchmark using CUDA, and the longer classroom test was around 8% faster with the TI here, so quite similar to the average difference seen in the games, despite the TI having 25% more CUDA cores than the non-TI. The V-Ray test showed a slightly larger 10% gain with the TI, but again, given this is a CUDA test, I was expecting to see bigger differences owing to the 25% higher CUDA core count that the TI offers. Now for the price differences.
It's just
SMG
globally
advised me
just
that the 3050
a
Ti
little
costs about
subtly
21%
tiny bit
more
better.
money compared
About
to the
8%
3050.
better.
But that's in the context of a GPU alone, which you can't buy. When you go to buy a laptop, you buy the whole laptop with the GPU already included. If a 3050 laptop was about $800 in this example, then a 3050 Ti laptop would be about 6% more money. But that's just going on the raw cost of the GPUs. It's likely that the OEM would probably want to take some profit going to the higher model. It's worth noting that XMG offers the Core 17 with RTX 3060 graphics rather than the two 3050 configurations I've got here. They just provided me with these models so that I could make this comparison. You can check out the Core 17 with the links down in the description. So yeah, at the end of the day, the 3050 Ti isn't amazing or anything, and it's going to come down to the price difference. But if you're in a situation where the 3050 Ti is, say, 10% more money compared to the 3050, then it could be worth it. At least the price increase somewhat scales with the performance boost on offer. But yeah, again, it just comes down to the price difference of the specific laptop, as well as your performance target. As we saw in many of the games,
Alright, I think the last thing I want to look up. Oh, wait. So, am I going to do it? Am I going to add the $80 to add the TI? It's 8% more. So basically, do I want to pay 8% more for 8% more power? Or do I want to pay 15% more for 20%? Ooh. Nah, this laptop will be extra crisp. This is going to be a good laptop. Let's keep it under 1,000. Let's keep it under 1,000. Just give me a reason to make more money so I can buy a better laptop someday. God, but I want it all. I want the power. I want the power. Now, could I get a cheaper? Hold on. Could I go to that mobile processor? I'm almost certain I'm buying an HP at this point. I bought one from a mom. Customer service is great. I trust HP. They've been around a long time. I feel like HP will eventually let me down. I'm scared of it, but right now it hasn't. It hasn't let me down so far. So. Alright, the other one is the Envy. Or a full line of laptops. There we go. Full line. I want $800 to $1,000. I forgot about pavilions. Oh, you're right. I could get a pavilion. And then it's not a gaming laptop, it's a pavilion. Problem with that is they don't tend to have the ports I need and stuff. It's pretty good looking. Ooh, that one looks sexy. Is that even better? Ooh, this one lowered. This one gave you like no. This one said, "Screw your hard drive. We'll give you no hard drive, but we'll give you a badass processor right there." That's interesting. Or they have HP laptop. Shit, that's pretty good. $879. I get a Ryzen 7 processor. RTX 3050 Ti. Same thing basically for $100 less. But with the AMD. Now, but this one has a 12th generation Intel Core I processor. Iris X. But it's Omen versus Pavilion. So this is the 16. The Omen does, I think the Omen is a 16-inch display. I think the Omen is a 16-inch display. I'm sorry, I'm covering my mouth. I should stop doing that. Whoa, I can upgrade it. Fuck. There it is. I can't. I'm going to have to do the Omen. No, I don't know that for sure, but this is I can get a 14. That was a big thing for me. But for just $90, I can add a 2K monitor instead of a 1080. At 165 hertz. That's a crazy upgrade. Oh, selected processor and graphics is not available to the quad HD display option. So I'm going to have to upgrade it to TI, I think. Okay, look. Yeah. So if I upgrade it to the TI, then I could get the dope display. Oh, yeah. That's cool. Okay. That, or okay, you can't. The Pavilion does not have. The Pavilion does not have a 2K option. Yeah, the Pavilion does not have a 2K option. I do like its processor and graphics though. But it doesn't have what I want. Is there any other? That's the Pavilion 15. See similar products. So can we get a Pavilion like that's a Pavilion Plus. Gotta say that's pretty affordable. HP Pavilion 15. If I wanted to go real cheap, $4.99, I get a monster over there. This one's bragging about its display. Can I upgrade it? No. Ah, that's a good one. I don't like this website right now. I'm having a hard time navigating it. There. Okay. Oh, they were hiding it. Okay. One USB Type C, two USB Type A. Okay. That's a pretty good laptop too. It says 12th generation. What is it actually? Oh, okay, it's an i7 1255U. That's good. So what's the catch here? Why is this one so cheap? Let's see. I'm looking for a review I want to hear. Is it the 55E graphics? No, it's the Iris X graphics. Iris Z XE, okay. Oh my god, this one says the perfect student or all-around laptop? Okay, technology man, sell me.
Hi, I'm Gidon from technologyman.com. The HP Pavilion
This might be it.
is a 15.6-inch laptop.
It's way more
with full
affordable too. I
HD
saved a couple
IPS
$100.
touchscreen, a 512GB fast
I won't
SSD,
get my
Ryzen
I won't get my
5
14
3500U processor,
display though.
and 8GB of RAM. There are other models in the range, but this one offers a good balance between performance and price. It's currently around £550 or $600, but check the links below for the latest prices. It's not the flashiest laptop, it's predominantly plastic, there's no 360-degree hinge, and it's not super lightweight. But it's fast enough to run pretty much anything and can even handle some light gaming with its integrated Vega 8 graphics. Could this be the perfect all-round laptop for most of us? Let's find out. Inside the box you get the laptop itself, a 45-watt charger and a quick start guide. You can download a full user guide from HP that I'll link to below. The left side of the laptop has a full-size HDMI port, a gigabit Ethernet port with accompanying status LEDs, a USB Type-C port, the status LED for the SSD drive, and a combo headphone microphone jack.
Oh my god, it's
The
got a
right
mic
side has a
jack.
memory card reader, a Kensington security slot, two standard USB Type-A ports, and a charging port with accompanying LED. The USB ports are all USB 3.1 Gen 1.
I bet I can make
to
music
support a
on this
maximum of
sucker.
5 gigabits
I
per
bet it's
second,
powerful enough for
not
that.
the 10 gigabits per second for the more recent Gen 2. That should still be plenty quick enough for most accessories you'll plug in for the time being. The SD card slot is useful but limited to slow USB 2.0 speed, as seems to unfortunately be the norm. Opening the lid reveals a chiclet-style keyboard with a number pad. The keyboard isn't backlit like on some models in the range. The trackpad measures 115mm by 60mm, wider but narrower than most. The build quality of the laptop is decent, if nothing spectacular. It looks fairly premium, but it's made almost entirely of plastic. The keyboard surround and palm rest feel fairly firm, but creak ever so slightly. The lid has more flex than I'd like to see, apart from making it feel a little flimsy, offers little protection to the LCD panel behind it.
Hmm.
The base of the laptop is more rigid with an air vent and 4 rubber feet. The laptop measures 361mm by 246mm and is 20mm thick, taking into account its feet. It's slightly beveled around the sides and chiseled towards the front, making it look thinner. It's lighter than spec, 7 kilograms.
I don't care
When you
about the
first power on
box,
the laptop,
man.
you'll need to finish off the Windows 10 install, as usual. This goes fairly quickly thanks to the SSD. There's not too much junkware. I uninstalled McAfee, letting the built-in free Windows Defender take its place. If you need additional protection, I usually install Malwarebytes. There's also some HP software that I'm keeping for the time being. With its larger 15.6-inch display, I was pleased to see a thin 5mm bezel around the sides, keeping its overall size down. The top bezel measures 11mm, but includes a 720p
It's got a nice
HD webcam
reflection.
and dual microphones for noise suppression.
The screen might be alright because it's got a glass cover.
20mm. There is a small amount of flex in the keyboard towards the centre, and it does sound a little clattery. There's a decent 1.5mm of travel, and I found typing on it perfectly acceptable. I do prefer a full-size return or enter key though. The multi-touch trackpad is nice and wide, but feels cramped in the vertical direction. The surface is a little rough compared to some high-end trackpads I've used, and I still much prefer using this laptop with a mouse. But it's more than adequate with nice positive clicks if you choose clicks over the default taps, and you can customise it through the pre-installed Elan ClickPad software. The 1920 by 1080 Full HD screen has an IPS touchscreen panel that is one of the highlights of the laptop. There's no 360-degree hinge to really take advantage of the touch display. That would bump up the price. The hinge tilts back to just 130 degrees, and the base of the lid then becomes a large rear foot for the laptop, tilting the keyboard slightly. Even without a 360-degree hinge, touch display can still be useful for casual interaction with the laptop. The IPS panel looks crisp and has good viewing angles, but the glossy screen is very reflective. You still might need to adjust the tilt of the screen to reduce any distracting reflections. Personally, I could probably forego the touchscreen for one of the models with an anti-glare panel. Using an X-Rite i1 Display Pro monitor
Yeah, I don't
calibrator,
need. So
I
I don't
measured
need the
maximum
touchscreen.
brightness to 230 nits, a little less than the quoted 250 nits. It's still bright enough indoors, but would struggle outside in brighter conditions. This is not a laptop specifically aimed at photographers, but I calibrated the screen, again using the i1 Display Pro, to attempt to get the most accurate colours possible from the screen. There wasn't a hugely noticeable difference to my eye. I measured the colour accuracy, or delta E of the screen. Delta E is a metric for understanding how the human eye perceives colour difference, with a value of less than 1 being not perceptible to the human eye, and a value between 1 and 2 being barely perceptible. I measured an average delta E of 2.74, which is not too bad, and an improvement over the 5.77 I got before calibration. Only 59% of the sRGB colour space was covered, the spectrum of colours that most devices conform to, from phones to TVs to monitors. This is a low result, but again, for general use, the display is more than adequate, and the variation in brightness across the screen was minimal, passing a final uniformity test. 41 watt-hour integrated battery charges with a 45 watt, 19.5 volt, 2.3 amp AC adapter with a 4.5mm pin. I would much prefer to see a standardised USB-C charger. Apart from being more convenient, it's also more robust. A full charge from completely empty, with the laptop turned off, took exactly 2 hours, with the amber power status light turning white. The battery supports fast charging, and 30-minute charge, again from completely flat, with the laptop turned off, brought the battery status to 43%, a little below the quoted 50%. A 90-minute charge brought it to 96%, higher than the quoted 90%. Battery life is quoted at 9 hours 30 minutes in mixed usage and 8 hours 45 minutes for video playback. HP don't specify exactly how they get these figures, and they seem optimistic. Playing back a full HD YouTube video full screen with brightness at maximum, I got around 4 hours of usage with the battery slider at best performance. Dropping the performance slider to best battery life and at 50% screen brightness, which is pretty dim on this laptop, this increased to just over 5 hours. These are still decent results for a powerful laptop with a 15.6-inch Full HD screen, considering you'll get longer just using the computer for web browsing or word processing. By default, you won't see the estimated battery remaining time, only the battery percentage. You can turn this feature on in the system BIOS. Turn the laptop off and then power on holding down the escape key. Press the F10 key to enter the BIOS setup. Use the arrow keys to navigate to the system configuration menu and enable battery remaining time. This model has an AMD Ryzen 5 3500U with Radeon Vega 8 graphics. It's a quad-core processor with 8 virtual threads and has a 2.1 GHz base speed boosting to 3.7 GHz. It's roughly equivalent to something like an Intel i5 8250U, but its integrated graphics are better, which I'll come back to. Together with its 8GB of DDR4 RAM running at 3200 MHz and fast M.2 NVMe 512GB SSD drive, this laptop feels pretty nippy in general use. Using Crystal DiskMark to test the speed of the drive, I measured 1633 MB/s read speed and 944 MB/s write speed, which is much faster than even a standard SSD. The laptop booted in 8 seconds to the login screen and woke from sleep in around 3 seconds. Running the Geekbench 5 benchmark gave a single core score of 893 and a multi-core score of 3020, which are both decent results. You can see how these results compare to a 2012 MacBook Pro, the Lenovo Yoga 530 I reviewed recently, and my high-end desktop PC. The user benchmark test gave the laptop a relatively high 74% desktop score, but with the laptop's integrated graphics, a fairly low gaming score, 20%. In real use, I was able to edit a fairly complex sequence in Adobe Premiere Pro with multiple layers without too much trouble. These are 4K clips and a 1080p timeline, and I created proxies or lower resolution substitute files as I do even on my powerful video editing PC. Lowering the playback and pause resolution, I could play and scrub the timeline without too many drop frames, which was quite a challenging task. Unfortunately, I couldn't use the AMD Vega 8 graphics processor for exporting using hardware encoding, for any sort of real-life project at least, even though it looked like it was supported. The integrated graphics only has 2GB of dedicated VRAM, which may not be enough. Perhaps if you were to increase the system RAM to 16GB, that might help. Switching to software encoding that just uses the CPU was slow, taking almost 30 minutes to render a 2-minute section off my 12-minute sequence, using the standard YouTube preferred H.264 codec. This took just over 10 minutes using software encoding on my desktop PC with an i7-8700 processor, and less than a minute using the hardware encoding of my NVIDIA RTX 2070 video card. But at least it is possible to use a laptop for some very heavy duty tasks if need be, although I wouldn't buy it solely for that purpose. Considering there isn't a dedicated graphics card, the integrated GPU handled a few games I tested quite well. You'll have to experiment with the resolution and graphics quality, but Doom was quite playable, as was Fortnite and several other games I tried. The Synthetic Heaven benchmark in basic mode gave a score of 780 with a very acceptable average frame rate of 31 frames per second. Probably my biggest peeve with this laptop is fan noise. The fan comes on far more often than you'd expect it to, even when you're not doing anything particularly processor intensive. I even experimented turning off fan always on in the BIOS, this made little difference, and disabling HP's CoolSense didn't help either.
Interesting.
Still, for lighter use, it's only an occasional distraction, and at least the laptop doesn't get too hot. You can upgrade and replace components in this laptop fairly easily, although the plastic base does take a little coaxing to remove, so you might want some help if you've not done this sort of thing before. HP helpfully provide a full maintenance guide, which I'll link to below. It's easy to upgrade the memory or NVMe SSD, or replace the battery when it's no longer holding its charge. There's even space for an additional 2.5-inch hard drive, although you'll need some additional parts to hold it in place and connect it to the motherboard. If you wanted to use a laptop for more intensive work, I'd start by replacing the two 4GB RAM modules for 8GB modules, taking the total memory to its 16GB maximum. The 720p Wide Vision HD webcam does a good job, as do the dual microphones either side of it. Even in low light, the webcam still manages to capture an image, albeit a very grainy one.
This is a test of the laptop's webcam and microphones.
There's a white indicator light to let you know the camera is on. The built-in stereo speakers, tuned by Bang & Olufsen according to HP's marketing info, still sound like laptop speakers, with very little bass. They are pretty loud and mid-sound bright. It's perfectly acceptable for video chats, but for anything else, personally, I'd connect headphones or an external speaker. You could use the integrated Bluetooth 4.2 for that if you wanted to. There isn't the latest Bluetooth 5.0, but that's not anything I'd be too concerned about. There's also 802.11ac Wi-Fi, and the connection was decent around the house with a very average Sky router. I didn't quite get the download speed of my iPhone 11, but I can still stream YouTube videos quite happily to the furthest points in the house. The HP Pavilion 15 is a very capable laptop. I don't really think you could ask for a much better spec for the price. The build quality is generally good and it looks quite stylish. There's more flex in the lid than I'd like, and together with its all plastic build and lack of a 360-degree hinge, you'll have to take a little extra care with it.
Hmm.
The Ryzen processor and generously sized fast NVMe SSD really make the laptop feel quick for both general use and more intensive tasks. If you wanted to use it for heavy duty work regularly, you have the option of...
Alright, so how can we pimp this out? So oh, well, that's it. That's it. That's the one. It's got the new processor. It's got the better graphics. It's got the better... I want to... Okay, so that was... So those graphics settings were different because that's not the one I'm looking at. So I need to specifically figure out Iris, Xe graphics. How do they hold up? And if I like what I see... I like what I see. That's a test for 21. Seems like they're pretty good. Apparently this came out in 21. So it's a little older. Alright, it's crappy as all get out, but you can play. That's old school right there, being able to play a game with low settings. You can play what looks like Cyberpunk. Yeah, Cyberpunk 77. I'm excited. This is going to be a good computer. I'm going to buy this computer. I'm going to call HP and buy this computer. The only trade-off the only thing that I'm basically accepting is that I'm gonna have a 1080p display, and that's okay because I have a 4K TV, and I'm gonna buy a good monitor for when I eventually build my high-end desktop. So this is gonna be a good. This laptop's gonna be exactly what I need. Alright, so look at this. He's playing what I think is Red Dead Redemption. Yes, he's playing Red Dead Redemption at 40 FPS. He's playing all of these at 720p low, apparently. That's crazy. I'm gonna be able to stream on the go. This graphics card and this processor is gonna be good enough to shoot. I need to learn how benches work. I'd like to bench it next to my desktop here, because I don't think I could play some of these games on this desktop. I do have DirectX 12 now though, because I got that new card from my little brother. I actually probably could get these. I probably could get these cards to games to load up. I also don't have the right motherboard for my graphics card in this desktop. So the graphics card I have in this desktop will actually perform slightly better. It's that I'm using a PCI Express 3, and I think it needs PCI Express 4, which bottlenecks the performance of my graphics card. I forget what it is. RTX. It's an AMD RX 480 or something. It is playing The Witcher. He's all broken. Let's see if we could test it in any other ways. So I want to test specifically this laptop. Specifically this laptop. This is the one I want. And I'm even going to bookmark this motherfucker here because I don't want to lose this. So let's bookmark that. All right. Oh, look at here. This is the comparison between the VideoBook and the Pavilion 15. And the VideoBook was actually the other laptop I was looking at, but it was the one that performed like complete crap on that guy's review. He's like, don't buy it because it basically can't perform because it gets overheated.
These two laptops are
So-
one of the best that you can buy.
If this guy's review says the Asus is beating the HP, then we have to go completely back to the drawing board, and I'm just going to say fuck it and buy the Omen. If through the process of watching these reviews I get turned off of this 15, if I get turned off of this HP Pavilion 15, no ifs, ands, or buts, I'm biting the bullet. I'm buying the fucking Omen because it's a good computer. And it has it literally has everything I want. I'm just paying more for it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Buy for under 3,500 ringgit or 800 US dollars. On my right is the new Asus VivoBook 15X OLED with AMD's Ryzen 5 5600H processor, and next to it is the HP Pavilion Laptop 15 powered by a more recent Intel Core i5 1240p. They are incredibly good laptops that I picked up recently.
See, that's not
and I've
even-
been using for more than
that's
a
not
week. So let's
the
talk
processor.
about which one is the better deal.
That's not the processor that I
Both
have.
these laptops
I
are
have... Or what is it? Stupid website. There it is. All right, I have 1255 i7 1255U. That's way better than the i5 1240p. So
What's up, family? How you guys doing today? Idle here with Milky Tech. Let's go over the package. And we have an Intel processor. Not much on this side or this side. And on this side we have a whole bunch of specs which I went over previously. So awesome.
let me
And on
see
this
your
side we have
specs there, buddy. 1165.
a whole bunch of
It's close. I think that one might be better. All right, cool.
specs which I went over previously. So awesome. It says in there. It says in there. And first things first. This out. We have our power brick with their cylindrical style connector. I will give HP logo on the build and speed quality is not that bad. There's
What's the number? God, it's so hard. 1255U. i7 1255U. Jesus. Okay, 65G7 and the 55U are like apparently comparative. Oh, here is. Oh, I do want to watch this video. So, I have a rough idea of what these means, but I want. Oh, Linus! There we go. Thank God.
Stuff, and I mean, heck, they're even a major sponsor of my other channel. But man, when it comes to confusing product naming schemes, I think Core i3, Core i5, Core i7 takes the cake. I mean, great question. What is a Core i7 4790K? What the heck does all of this even mean? We'll get to that, but first a bit of background about why we need product names for processors. Wouldn't it be simpler to just label them with how many gigahertz they run at and call it a day? Simpler, sort of, but at times actually even more confusing. For example, when the Pentium 4 launched, an equivalently clocked Pentium 3 was actually faster because it could do more work with each cycle. As a customer, I would expect the product with the higher number to be the better one. And therein lies the problem. Not all megahertz and gigahertz are created equal, and rating products that way is about like rating the performance of a car based on what RPM the engine runs at. It's not actually a real indication of how fast the processor is, but it happened. Now, one of AMD's attempts to move away from this started in the early 2000s with their PR or performance rating naming scheme, where their processors were given a 4-digit model number that enthusiasts believe was based on the performance AMD felt that they delivered compared to an Intel CPU of that clock speed. But this fixed nothing. They were still indirectly naming according to clock speed, and it wasn't until Intel introduced the Core series, a line of CPUs that dramatically outperformed their predecessors at much lower clocks, that the megahertz war ended because Intel needed to shift their marketing away from frequency. So here's what we have today. Other than the very bare bones Pentium SKUs, a Core i3 will be your most basic option with 2 processing cores and hyper-threading. More about this feature here. For better multitasking, it will have a smaller cache, it'll consume less power, and it'll generally perform worse than a Core i5, but it'll cost less. which leads us to the Core i5. I wish I could say it was as simple as, well, Core i3s have 2 cores and Core i5s have 4 cores. The number of cores equals n minus 1, where n is the number after the little I.
Yeah.
But it's not. Mobile Core i5s have 2 cores and hyperthreading, while desktop ones, mostly, have 4 cores and no hyperthreading. But what they all have in common is improved onboard graphics and turbo boost. More about this feature here. For temporary performance enhancements when your system needs a little bit more oomph. And with oomph in mind, Core i7s. Number 1, all Core i7s have hyperthreading for heavy workloads, and number 2, that's the noise your brain is going to make as I finish my explanation here. A Core i7 can have anywhere from 2 processing cores in an Ultrabook all the way up to 8 in a workstation. It might support anywhere from 2 sticks of memory all the way to 8, and it can have a TDP anywhere from around 10 watts all the way to 130
This is old, by the way.
watts.
This is 8 years ago, so they
there's
can
a
have more
ton of
cores than
variety
that.
here. And that's for a reason. Core i7s tend to have more cache, faster turbo boost, and better onboard graphics than the lower tier processors. And I guess, other than that, the best summary I can give is this.
Let's, since
Core
this is
i7
such an old
represents
video,
the best
I'm going to
thing
finish it, but I'm
Intel
going to go
could
to
build for a given
a newer
use
video
case,
after this.
with the biggest drawback being the higher price tag. So when you boil it down, that's all the whatever numbers represent. Good, better, best within a given segment. Beyond that on their own, they're pretty much meaningless. The numbers and letters afterwards sort of mean something if you use the guide from before, but the safest way to shop is to dig around in ARC and look at the features, core counts, and clock speeds of the CPUs you're comparing to figure out how they stack up. With the good news being that as long as you compare within one brand and within the same product generation, those metrics will actually mean something.
Speaking of mean, Fractal
ARC.
Design is backed
Well, I
by
think
an
ARC
old
might be
man.
dead, but here.
So, do you remember when all you needed for a gaming CPU was an i5? That was back when games barely made use of 4 CPU cores, and it just made a lot more sense to spare that budget for your GPU. I mean, we have climbed tremendously in terms of GPU power since then, but games are definitely becoming a bit more CPU intensive. So with Intel recently kind of finishing up their 12th gen lineup with the introduction of the i3s and the locked i5s, this raises the question again how much you should be spending on a gaming CPU. I mean, how many cores and threads do games these days actually take advantage of? Do more cores give you a smoother frame rate experience, for example? And is opting for something like an 8-core or 10-core CPU for gaming, is that considered future-proofing? Is that something that you really need to think about? So to test this, I've paired a bunch of the new CPUs from Intel with one of the fastest GPUs today, the RTX 3080. At the bottom of the lineup, we have the new quad-core i3-12100F, which, despite only being $130, boasts 8 total threads. Boosting up to 4.3 GHz, this is our cheapest option of the list, and only pulling about 60 to 90 watts at full load, it pulls the least amount of power as well. Then bumping up to around $200 is the i5-12400. For that extra money, we're getting an additional 2 performance CPU cores, a bit of extra cache, and a 100 MHz higher boost clock. Like the i3 though, the CPU cores here are not overclockable, but with 6 cores and 12 threads currently considered the sweet spot by many, this is definitely one to keep an eye on. Now, also an i5, but actually a very different CPU, is the i5-12600K. The K denotes that this one is overclockable, but this one also packs 10 total CPU cores. The extra 4 cores over the i5-12400 are the lower power efficient cores though, so it'll be interesting to see how much of an impact they make for gaming, if any. Stepping up to the big stuff now though, we have the i7-12700K. At around $400, we're now packing 12 total CPU cores, made up of 8 performance cores and 4 efficient cores. At this point, beefy air coolers or liquid cooling would be recommended, with those performance cores now boosting up to 5 GHz. Here is the end game though, it's the i9-12900K. This is the fastest desktop processor that you can buy at the moment, beating both the Ryzen 5900X and 5950X in gaming and production workloads, although pulling a lot more power while doing so. And honestly, that pretty much goes for the rest of Intel's 12th gen lineup as well. As much as I love AMD Ryzen 5000 and all of the epic builds that I've done with those CPUs in the past, that ship has kind of sailed. They had a long and powerful reign, and so if you're asking what about AMD Ryzen, Intel's 12th gen is pretty much just the way to go at the moment, both for gaming and production workloads. And Speaking of production workloads, that's probably a really good place to start. So we all know that more cores and threads scale pretty much linearly in multi-threaded apps like Cinebench R23 and Blender, so some of these results should be no surprise to you, but a really interesting comparison here is between the i5 12400 and the i5 12600K. So they are both i5s, but remember the 12600K has an additional 4 efficient cores.
I really want to know specifically about 1255U. What does it mean? Ooh, yeah, this is a chord structure that I can sing to. Ooh, look at this. Alright. They both have integrated graphics. Don't need the separated card. Okay. GPU clocks higher with the 65G7. Clocks 50 megahertz higher. OpenGL version. Both are on 4.6. Supported displays. Wow. Both of them will support 4 displays. I could have 4 displays off of my that one laptop. That's wild. It doesn't even have the right ports for that. I'd have to split it. I'd have to split an HDMI. They both like the same amount of temperature. This to be, you know I'm on a rap for sure. This my spit sash. Whoa, what is that? Whoa, it's saying this 1165 is like way faster. Turbo. What's the downside of turbo? What's the downside of turbo CPU? Turbo Boost explained. Let's read it. Turbo Boost is the trade name used by Intel to market the specific overclocking technology and feature included in some of its enabled Intel core processors. First introduced in 2008, blah, 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 blah. Oh, through redirection of power from several cores to a specific core. Oh. Multi-core processors have a predefined clock speed. However, upon the activation of Turbo Boost, the processor redirects power from the cores that are unneeded to boost the clock speed of another core beyond the predetermined limit. This is dope. Okay. So, both of these are going to be dope because their turbo speed is 4.7, which is, I believe, faster than this motherfucking computer. However, their base clock speed, so if oh wow, that's interesting. So if I want to do a highly complex process, that requires a lot of different calculations than the 65G7 is better because it's got a higher base clock speed. But in applications where wow, okay. That's interesting. I think I'm liking the 1165 G7 a little better than the 1255U. $13 MB cache. Don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. Oh, 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 oh. Don't know what it means. Alright, RAM speed. This is saying this likes faster RAM. So the i7, so the 55 supports faster memory. But am I using 4800 MHz? What memory am I using? Look, I'm not using it. I'm only using 3200 megahertz in this computer. So this computer would be better if I could change the Core i7 to a 65 something. Hold on. How do I edit? I want this computer, but I want to edit it. I want to build it. Can I build it? I don't think I can right here. I might be able to, so... there is a customize and buy. Okay. This desktop PC. That's not a desktop PC, you goofy. Okay. No, they only have the 55 and the 60p. It's fine, I can keep the 55, but I want faster RAM. That processor will support faster RAM. This is a mess. This is a mess. These pre-built computers are a mess. Okay, let's, that's not gonna work. Alright, well, let's continue watching this video. So, oh, actually I want to go back 10 seconds. Yeah, the 1255U handles memory speed way, way faster than the 65G7. But the problem is that we've got crappy memory in these pre-built computers. only 2 channels, that's fine. ECC memory. Error correcting code memory can be yeah, 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 yeah. Alright, that has all that. The conclusion is that you're loving me at a tone of me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ooh-da-na, la-da-da-doo-da-da. Ooh. You know what I can go? Let me go to user benchmarks. Let me go to user benchmark home. Let me search by a 1255 U. I want the i7-1255U. Or what's it called? Yeah. Alright, well, I've found it. I mean, it's way slower than a high-end desktop. Shoot, I could just, if I'm, oh wow. Could just get the 65U. Ooh. No, we're looking for the 55U. Now, I want to see a build with it. It's got an Inspiron 16 or a Pavilion 15. I could check out the Inspiron. That's true. I've been on HP this whole day. Let me see if the Inspirons have better memory to match it. The Dell Inspiron 16 is compatible with the 1255U that I wanted, the Iris Xe graphics that I am expecting. I am looking for these RAMs are no good. I need to see the clock speed of these RAMs. DDR4 3000, DDR32, 32. Now, this says that it will support memory up to... This is fun. This is really fun. This is going to be crazy. Nobody's going to expect this. But this says it'll support memory up to 4,800 megahertz. That's really, 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 really fast memory comparatively. Wow, it doesn't like to do anything more than 3,200, so I need frequency to be up. Oh my gosh, okay. Fastest I can get is 3,600. I can't even get 48. Can I get an Inspiron? Let's go to Dell.com. Okay, so we have our Omen and our HP Pavilion 15, which I'll reopen up. Okay, so these are what we're shopping between. So we have our Omen, we have our HP Pavilion 15. Let's go ahead and open up Dell.com, and I'm going to look at Inspirons. Right now, we're leaning towards the Pavilion 15 because, frankly, it's all around good. The only problem is that its processor isn't the correct processor for the type of memory it's got. It would be better off with a processor called a 65 something right now. Or what's it called? 65G7 would probably be a better processor for this HP Pavilion. Now, if the Inspirons have faster clock speeds on the RAM, it's built into them, then and they also might have, there's an there's a chance here to get a better display, which is a big deal to me. I really wanted a 2K display, and the 1080 was kind of like a, Go laptops, let's go to, let's check out their Inspirons. Here it is. Okay. About the same price. Inspiron 16. See, what does it have Ultra HD? See, that's the problem here. People don't know what they're looking at. It doesn't need Intel Ultra HD graphics if its main display is only 1080p. Otherwise, you have to connect it to a 4K monitor to get Ultra HD content. I like these Iris Xe graphics too. I'm kind of okay with that. So I need to look at the. I could get an 11th gen. No, I'm not doing that. Okay, that's the Inspiron 16. We'll open that in a new tab. I want to keep searching here. And then there's the Inspiron 16 here. What's the difference? Why is this one cheaper? We'll open this one up too. Something's wrong. What's the difference here? So this one's $1,000. It's because it got a 1 terabyte. I don't need a terabyte. It's better. Okay, 1 terabyte. This one is even cheaper. But it's got an i5. I don't want that. Ooh, this one's sick. This one's Inspira 15. This one's even cheaper. Here we go. Look at this. Ooh. This one's an Inspiron 15. We'll open that up. It's just slightly smaller. See what type of graphics it has. 2-in-1, don't want that. I don't want 11th generation, I want 12th gen. Don't want 2-in-1, don't want. That one's oddly expensive. Okay, this one's it's around 14. We'll see what makes that one different. $16 plus. Holy crap. That thing's a beast. Oh, wow. That thing's a beast. But that's $2,000. But that comes with the H series processor. That changes it up. That goes to the 8. That's a desktop processor. And it has an RTX 3060 in it. That thing's a fucking beast. That's a monster. One. Now we're getting into some fun stuff. So that's the 1260p. Oh, wait a minute, wait a minute. And we have the 1165 G7. Which I can't find for the life of me. What kind of a processor is that? That is a crappy computer. Man. If I had a bunch of money, that's what I'd buy. That thing's sexy. Look at this. They do have the Inspiron 14. It does come with the appropriate 2K display. Comes with a 2K display. And it comes with that dope i7. But it doesn't have the integrated graphics. that they said that one guy said bottlenecked it. But for $150, I could add a 30. Oh, I'm back. I'm circling back now, aren't I? This Inspiron 14 looks just like this Omen. It's actually cheaper. Hold on. Inspiron, yeah. Yeah. Inspiron 14 looks not right. What's going on here? Oh, here it is. So Inspiron 14 Plus is $11.49. Omen is $11.69. Omen gets 2 extra inches of screen. Oh, there it is. There's the RAM that I wanted. God dang it. Okay. And I could have it by January 6th if I order it right now. Fucking Dell always being awesome. This is why you shop for a long time, by the way. I just keep finding better and better deals. This is a better deal than HP. It's a good thing I came over to Dell. It's cheaper. I get a better processor. I lose 2 inches of screen, which never mattered to me very much. I lose 2 inches of screen, but it becomes a 2K screen. I get a G4. I get an RTX 3050. I don't get the Ti, but I do get the RTX 3050, and instead of an i5, I get an i7 processor, which is much better. Oh wow, this is gonna be. Whew, this is gonna be a good computer. Inspiron 14 Plus. All right, let's do a YouTube of the Inspiron 14 Plus. Plus laptop review. Laptop of the year. It's laptop of the year. This is with the... Oh, wait.
If you've ever wanted a Dell XPS but didn't quite find yourself ready to pay the enormous price tag it comes with, but at the same time you didn't want to settle for the base Inspiron series, well, the Inspiron Plus series is kind of a bridge to that problem. And today we're having a look at the latest Dell Inspiron 14 Plus. It's been refreshed with some new configurations. So the one we have here today is rocking Intel's 12th Gen 12700H i7 Evo certified processor. That's a mouthful. 16 gigabytes of DDR5 memory. We also, of course, have Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. Additionally, a modest 500.
It's the DDR5 memory that I'm excited about.
The latest Wi-Fi 6E standard as well as Bluetooth 5.2 on board. And finally, this is a 14-inch display with a QHD plus resolution. There is a lot to talk about with this laptop. It's quite the exciting one and an interesting one as well. Today we're going to see
I want this
if
laptop.
the Inspiron 14 Plus is the upper mid-range laptop you've been waiting for. Let's get started. This laptop
Upper
comes in
mid-range.
packaging that's about as lame as it can get. But the saying goes that
It
it's
literally
what's
nailed it.
inside that actually counts. So let's have a look, shall we? Now, firstly, of course, you'll find the laptop itself. Remove all that protective packaging. And here it is, the Inspiron 14 Plus in all its glory. Past that, you have a hefty 90-watt USB-C charging adapter. It's got quite the weight to it.
I like
And of
that.
course, the
That's good
standard
looking.
watt-outlet charging cable piece. And finally,
Hey.
the Kickstarter warranty, regulation information, and all the other
I want
paperwork
this
that
one.
comes standard. In terms of design, you immediately feel the Inspiron 14 Plus is a clear step up when compared to the regular Inspiron series because it has a full metallic exterior,
Yes.
different vents, and a more chunkier build overall.
Yes.
It still looks linear and sharp and still has this unique slim profile to it. Overall, it's a very sturdy and well-built machine. Now, it is fairly hefty at 3.7 pounds. It's definitely well fed, but again, the build quality represents the weight. Now, starting with the top side, immediately you'll notice you have a smooth, textureless metallic surface here. Dell likes to keep it nice and simple. It also looks professional and clean. And you do have a subtle Dell logo in the center, and that's pretty much it. Starting with the rear side, immediately you notice those massive hinge brackets on either side, and right next to those you have a dual setup of exhaust vents, so plenty of cooling going on here. On either side of the laptop you have all the I/O ports included. So on one side you have the DC charging port in case you want an alternative to USB-C charging, a heat exhaust vent. You also have the inclusion of a HDMI 2.0 port, a
They've got two
USB-A
charging.
Super Speed port. You have one Thunderbolt 4 USB-C port with power delivery as well as DisplayPort functionality. Now on the other side you have one more USB-A Super Speed port, an additional heat exhaust vent. Past that you have a micro SD
God,
card
it's got a
reader
micro
and
SD
headphone
card
jack.
reader.
If I'm being honest, I/O port diversity isn't half bad here, though honestly the distributors included a full-size SD card reader, as a micro SD card is just, well, it's a half measure in my opinion. Still here, I'm so happy to see that. Please consider subbing to this channel if you're enjoying the content. These videos take a ton of time and effort to make, and every time you sub or like this video, it genuinely keeps me motivated to provide more content just like this. Let's continue. The bottom of this laptop, just like the rest of it, has a nice metallic exterior, but what's really impressive here is the fact that you have plenty of air intake vents at the bottom, and despite being the non-dedicated GPU configuration, you still have a dual fan setup here, providing a generous amount of air inflow for a 14-inch laptop. You'll also notice on the bottom sides you do have two speaker grills, one on either side, meaning this is a bottom firing setup. As soon as you unfold this laptop, the quality goes up a notch because you have a two-tone glass and metal inner chassis. So the lower half
shit
has
is cool.
a full glass surface finish over here, and the palm rest is pretty large for a 14-inch laptop, so you get this illusion of having lots of space even if you don't necessarily have it. But the real MVP here is that massive trackpad. It seamlessly integrates with the rest of the chassis, also has a glass surface finish here. As you might have guessed, the clicks are tactile, smooth, and also precise. It's well calibrated. This is probably one of the best trackpads I've seen on a laptop in this price range, so A+ job there, Dell. The keyboard here is equally as impressive. So you do have the same keyboard style that you find on the standard non-Plus Inspiron 14. The keycaps are well labeled. You have a full black keycap style here, and you'll also notice, of course, it's fully backlit. You do have a 2-in-1 power button that doubles as a fingerprint scanner. But the real magic here is when you type on this thing, you'll notice you have a tad bit more key travel than the standard Inspiron series of laptops. So that basically provides further tactility, a more smoother experience. It just feels really nice when you type on here, whether it's gaming, typing up an essay, or just typing in the password for your Hotmail account. You're gonna love it. The hinge quality is pretty good. You do have a slight amount of wobble, but nothing too bad. Overall, it's well tuned, and you have a approximate 145-degree tilt angle. Now, the display fitting is made of plastic, but the good news is that you have a very thin chin at the bottom, which you don't normally find. Additionally, you have nice modern narrow bezels, so they look nice as well. And at the very top, you have a surprisingly thin forehead as well. This is the part normally where I tell you about the mediocre webcam, but not today. Because today, we've got a high quality full HD 30 FPS webcam included here, and boy, let me tell you, it feels like a massive upgrade compared to the mediocre crap Dell normally ships out with those 720p webcams we find on the base Inspiron models. So good job there, Dell. And it's also worth noting, as a bonus, you do get a built-in privacy shutter for the more cautious consumer. The display quality here is quite impressive, all things considered. So you have a crisp 2.2K resolution, or Quad HD Plus if you will, which equates to a 16:10 aspect ratio. Now you do have a rather limited 60Hz refresh rate, however you do have a high quality IPS panel here with wide viewing angles, no PWM flickering. It is a non-touchscreen laptop, but personally I like that. I hate getting fingerprints on my laptop. Now the real MVP here by far is that exceptional 100% sRGB rating, or 69% Adobe RGB if you will. This means colors look lively, vivid, and is great for content creation, video or photo editing type of activities.
I'm sold.
You have a modest 300 nits peak.
Done. How do I buy this? Done. Getting the 14 plus. Found it. Thank you for hanging out with me, chat. That's it. We're calling it on that. I'm buying the 14 plus. I'm spending the little extra money on it. I want it. I want it. Buying the 14. Now, what I need to do, so I'm going to close out everything else. So I'll leave his review open. I'm closing out of the HP. We're getting this 14 plus. That's the laptop I want. Now, how do we get it even tighter? So it comes with a 3050 on it. It's gonna be dope. It's got 16 gigabytes of 4800 megahertz integrated memory, a 2K screen. This thing is a fucking monster. It's not. This is a gaming. This is what I was looking for. This is a gaming computer that they didn't shove in a gaming box, and they didn't over max drive it out with gamey things. Free 2-day delivery. Okay. Oh my god, it comes in dark green too. This is the hottest computer out there. Oh yeah, baby. I just had to look for a little bit. Ooh. That's it. That's it, man. That's the beast. How do I... Alright. Let's add it to my cart. Okay. Alright. I think I actually might get the damage protection on this one. 1 year accidental damage protection. It's pretty good. Alright, I don't need any of that migrate. PDF, so I don't need any of that. 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 Or that. Or that. Or that. Or that. Saving this. Alright, now, I have to figure out how I'm going to get this cheaper. So what I need to do is call them. But I have to be willing to pull the trigger. I'm nervous. Dell coupons? Let's see if there's any Dell coupons. Whoa. Well, that coupon worked. It's an extra $50 off. I mean, I'm just going to put all the coupons in, see if they work. Alrighty. I gotta call. I gotta talk to Courtney. Anyway, I'm gonna take a break from stream. I'm gonna leave this up. I'm not quite ready to execute. I really need to, but I'm scared. I was looking for coupon codes, see if I could find any. Candace what's her name? Hunsick? Kasanuk. Alright, I just got to come to terms with spending the money. So I'm going to go take a break, talk to my wife, and then I'll probably order this thing. I got to call the people. I got to call the people too, cuz if I don't talk to an agent, I might miss out on that. I might spend an extra $100 just cuz I'm afraid of the phone, and that's not going to work for me. So I got to get on the phone too. So thanks for joining my stream today. Thanks for hanging out with me while I did some laptop shopping. I know it wasn't the most exciting content, but we'll get back to playing video games soon. School's starting for me, so I kind of have to balance everything. All right, guys, we'll see you next